Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Deja Vu here, and this is the final match from the Group 1. This is going to be Jangbi and Ssak, whom frustrated me so much in the last game, but still came away with the victory against Hoja. So Hoja's left, losing his first two games, so he's gone from the MSL. Hydra advances 2-0. And this is the final game between these two guys to figure out who gets to actually go into the true MSL and get on all those national televised this. And well, I guess this is technically national televised, but don't quite get the publicity of the real MSL. And this map is going to be on Triathlon. I think you gotta favor Jangbi, despite his problems recently. I think PVT was still always his best matchup. This is a map that endorses creative play, so that's always something to watch out for. You know, someone does something a little bit unorthodox. If Ssak has a good plan in mind, then you could see him come away with something on Ssak's side. But I think as long as neither player is able to get away with something too crazy, get an easy advantage through some sort of trickeration, I think we'll see Jangbi come away with the victory. And it looks like we're gonna start with just a basic block by Ssak, and actually that's actually really nice. He used the barracks in the supply depot, and then he just sticks an SCV in the middle there to block the probe. One thing to watch out though is that now Ssak's using 3 SCVs out of his wall right now. One to block, one to build the barracks, and then one to fight the one to fight the probe. That's actually a pretty heavy SCV in investment. And for most people that would be nothing, but at the pro level, these kinds of little things can sometimes matter. That's a little bit less economy, just slightly, but just that little slight bit can sometimes make a difference and say delay your factory by 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and that could be 4 seconds more depending upon what Jangbi does. That could be 4 seconds longer that a Dragoon is hammering away at his wall if Jangbi decides to put on some early pressure, that sort of thing. So definitely something to watch out for if that comes into picture. We'll see what these guys decide to do. You do have that back expansion, and it looks like Ssak's sending an SCV back there. Yeah, he is. So I think he's just going to take one rack straight into expansion, and Jangbi really doesn't know what's going on. But it looks like he's going to expand as well, so this definitely favors Ssak right off the bat. I think if Jangbi had gotten that scout in and seen what Ssak's doing, I think Jangbi would have immediately gone and probably be going and taking a third Nexus pretty quickly as well, with his 1 gate and core, maybe produce 2 Dragoons, maybe something like that, and then go take his natural as well and try and get an economic advantage. But he's got no idea, so this is kind of a dangerous situation for Jangbi. If they stick to it like this, and Jangbi, waits until he gets he doesn't have the core yet. Well, waits until he gets a core, gets a robotics facility, and there's a observer out before figuring out that that's back there. I mean, you could really see Jangbi fall behind economically, which would be a little bit unfortunate. Because he's really not going to be able to put on too much pressure once, the second supply depot's there. There's really not too much of a ability for him to put on much pressure at that ramp. I actually kind of thought that he would produce a Zealot and send it towards that gap and maybe try and kill the SCV blocking between the barracks and the supply depot, but instead he used that Zealot to block the bottom of his ramp. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but that's what that's doing to stop any sort of a scout from Ssak. So that's what that Zealot is doing right now, and that Nexus is almost complete, so we're getting a little Maynarding going on here, probably for both guys, probably Maynarding pretty standardly. Yeah, there it is. And yeah, Ssak went the wrong way there to start his scouts, but he did figure out where Jangbi is. But once again, Ssak has no real idea what Jangbi's doing either. So both these guys playing pretty much in the dark, which probably means that we'll see observers for Jangbi, and probably an engineering bay relatively soon from Ssak, just to get a couple turrets up. You never know if there's a DT follow-up or just to protect himself a little bit against Reavers, that sort of thing. Turrets would be a pretty normal thing, but no, looks like we got an armory coming down already with that factory, so it looks like he's completely bypassing this. I'm kind of surprised that he's going this anti-detection, really. I mean, he'll get the scanner up, but that's really not enough, in my opinion, when if you don't know that, say, a Reaver's coming your way, or if DT drops and that sort of thing are coming your way. That's really not enough, but I think he's going to get away with it here. playing very, very risky. You know, we always talk about pro players trying to find corners that they can cut and try and get little advantages against their opponent. And how did that SCV get in here? And Sack's really cutting a lot of a few corners at least, and gonna get an economic advantage for it. And Ssak now sees, he knows that base is back there. He saw the Dragoon shooting at the eggs, and there's really no reason for a Dragoon to shoot at those eggs unless there's a base back there to defend. So Ssak knows what's going on right now. He knows that second base is already there. It was probably taken extremely early. And he knows that he's in an economic advantage and doesn't have to face too much pressure yet. And he's going to throw up a second command center. So he's actually ready to get his third base up and running, his natural expansion. And that's going to give him a huge lead here. So Jangbi is going to have to do some damage right now. Like, not right now, but with his two-base build, whether it's, I don't know what the build is really. I mean, he's getting observers right now. But it doesn't look like he's really preparing to go, say, arbiters or something like that. He's going to have to maybe get a shuttle out and try and do a pseudo super late bulldog, at least using that strategy, something like that, or elevate himself into this base of the back base of Ssak and do some damage, because if he just, you know, expands normally, takes his natural expansion, he's going to fall really far behind Ssak economically, and even with the skill difference between these players, which I think is still, you know, enough. I don't think that Jangbi will be able to really make up the difference. That will be a massive production difference, and it looks like Jangbi's just taking his natural expansion, which is going to be later than Ssak. So, yeah, I'm starting to become a little bit fearful for Jangbi. He does have an observer out, so we will figure out what's going on pretty shortly. And since there aren't any turrets or, you know, engineering bay even, he'll be able to get a nice full scout on, which is something good for Jangbi. And there we got a starport, and we got a PP pausing the game. Something's going wrong here. Let's see what's going on. Hopefully this doesn't end up being like one of those like 7-minute pauses where I'm just sort of here. Was it really? Maybe Ssak didn't have his headphone covers on, so they were making him pause the game? Was that really it? Not really sure what's going on. We'll find out. If you can understand Korean, or if you can Korean lip read and you want to post in the comments what the hell is going on, that would be awesome. But I can't. So we're just in this for the long haul here for a little bit. Find out what's going on. What else is going on? We got what? OSL going on pretty soon. OSL going on tonight. D, E, and F. So I'm not. Oh man, I can't even tell you the matchups, because if you didn't see the first day of D, E, and F, then you don't know who won those games. So I can't even really tell you what the matchups are. But there is that going on. So the OSL is well underway. We've got. Let's see. We can talk a little bit about OGN and MBC getting sued, I guess, by Blizzard, and possible injunction making it so that we have no more StarCraft 4 for a while, which would really, really suck. And other than that, we're staring at the goofy. You know, these outfits are actually pretty legit compared to normal. The commentator outfits, the Korean commentators, those are some reasonable looking outfits compared to what they're usually using. There's no yellow, there's no like green and orange mixed together with some brown junk, whatever random colors that they try and throw on. And the refs are still talking to the players, figuring out what's going on. If this goes on too much longer, I'll probably have to re-edit or something. But Jangbi getting his headphones back on, maybe that means that we're getting close to start up again. Take a look at Ssak. He's got his headphones on. Looks like both these guys look like they're getting pretty close, getting ready to play again. Hopefully that's indicative, and that we're. Yep, not too sure. Okay, it looks like we're gonna start again. There we go. We've started again. I don't know what that was about. Doesn't really matter. Luckily there was no real fight going on. The referees picked a pretty good spot of where to to pause the game. We might have ruined a couple of the circuits at worst, but overall, not really, that pause is not really going to have much of an effect on the game. But yeah, like I said before, Ssak is just in a fantastic spot, having taken his second base at the same time as Jangbi, taking his third base earlier than Jangbi. Yeah. And Jangbi just playing very, very standard, getting that observer out now. He knows the base is up at the natural, I think. So Jangbi may be looking to go take a fourth soon. But at this point it gets pretty dangerous, because off of 3 bases you know that there's going to be, well, you're pretty sure anyways, that there's going to be a push of some form from Ssak off of his 3 bases, that he's probably not going to go for a 4-base build. So I don't know if Jangbi really has time to go throw up yet another base before he's got to be ready for kind of a bigger pitched fight, which is kind of a problem for him. So he's going to be pretty far behind if that pitch fight occurs a little bit later. But we do have a shuttle out with some zealots, so maybe he is going to go for a little bit of this, pseudo bulldog zealot bombs right into Ssak's base sort of thing. I don't know how successful it's going to be. He doesn't have a ton of dragoons to support this, considering the time period and the number of tanks that Ssak can really can siege up if he wants. Ssak getting that science facility up as well. And looks like Jangbi's going to go and drop off at the back expansion, actually. And I mean, Ssak's really got too much there. He's already blown up the egg, so this really isn't going to be effective at all. He might get a couple of SCVs here, but not enough to really do anything. And actually sieging up maybe an air here, he could actually splash damage and kill a lot of his own SCVs, but it looks like he's going to be okay. Finally, an engineering bay and a missile turret being thrown up at the natural expansion, so he's going to be at least somewhat safe from shuttle play. And Goliath is going to be able to take down the shuttle, probably. And here comes Jangbi with a lot of dragoons trying to take down at least a couple of these early tanks, these front tanks. This is really dangerous from Jangbi. I don't know if this is just a bad idea by Jangbi. Not a good decision there to really engage there. Not really sure what he was truly thinking. I mean, he knew that the number of tanks that were in the back, and he knew that he couldn't break through that front and get his dragoons like really close to the tank. So that was just some poor decision making by Jangbi to get into that fight. Really should have just saved those dragoons until he got arbiters, and maybe, I mean, if you're gonna make a desperate play, you could have waited for arbiters to make his desperate play. We do have a science facility completed with 2 armories, so we are going to see a bunch of upgrades coming in. We have looks like we're getting up to 6 factories for Ssak, and yeah, I didn't see the the starport building, so probably just for upgrades is that science facility for now, anyways. And Jangbi's going to catch this dropship, going to take it down, so no harassment for Ssak. And as you saw, Ssak scanning, but unfortunately not catching the dragoon batch that was there to intercept. So both players drop plays, not really doing much of anything here to start. And it looks like Ssak's going to get up to 8 factories now with his buildings. 9. That's a lot of factories, but that's probably about what you can support off of 3 bases. 9 factories. About correct. And I didn't see too many machine shops. I think only the 2 machine shops. Yeah, I think that's it. So still good. So it's going to be a lot of vultures, probably mixed in with a few Goliaths here and there. And Jangbi throwing up a lot of gateways as well. So he's going to be up to 11 gateways. 11 gateways versus 9 factories. Pretty comparable, as well as that Stargate producing arbiters. And as soon as Ssak scans that, he's going to start producing some science vessels, I would assume, to just get that mobile detection, get that the EMP, which is very nice. And by the way, Jangbi did take his inside base, that inside 12. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that is going to be his 4th base. And it looks like Ssak wants to take a 4th base as well, building another command center. So Ssak playing this extremely passive here on Triathlon. This is the real fight now is going to happen when Ssak tries to take this 4th. I think that's what Jangbi's gonna really try and stop, is the taking that 4th base. And Jangbi darting in here, picking off that science vessel, took a couple of hits from some siege tanks, but not a